there was a man that was murdered out there, beheaded and hole in his head in like 1940s.
Like multiple stargates where otherworldly beings just appear and reappear on these flatter plateaus that are out there. Vatican has had an observatory somewhere. They always have some observatory. Why do they have an observatory? Okay, well,
I was about to ask.
A ton of research is done there. It's apparently, from my understanding, it's one of the most productive or information producing observatories on the planet.
Howie Mandel knows where the gold is.
Ooh, what if he does?
Wouldn't surprise me.
I don't think he does.
Oh, okay. So the whole point of it is like there supposedly is at least like a person every year, every other year that gets murdered out there. And yet, like you can't really find a whole lot to it. And people claim that there's cover-ups, and people claim that like it's because it's CIA. Like there's all sorts of wild speculation out there. However, when I was just getting out of the military, obviously been big into firearms for my entire life, right?
Didn't know that.
Weird. And I had a friend that was like, dude, we should go out there and like go search for the gold. And I was like, nope, absolutely not. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, dude, the murders that happen out there, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, so bring your AR. And I'm like, I would only feel comfortable going out there if I had like a 10-man fire team aside from myself. And they have to have at least the training that I have.
Right. They'd have to have combat experience. They would have to know what's going on, how to handle themselves. Yeah.
And I would have a 5-man off, 5-man on team sleeping regimen. Not a chance I'm going out there.
No. So did your buddy, did he end up going out there by himself?
No one will ever know. No, I'm kidding. He never did.
Yeah, of course not.
Instead, he moved away.
Oh.
But yeah, no, there's not gold worth risking all that. And people still do. Like there was a man that was murdered out there, beheaded and hole in his head in like 1940s. There was a man, Adolf Ruth, I think was in 1931, attempted to go out there and was also murdered.
Too bad. Wrong Adolf.
Right. Missed it by that much. That was back when having the name Adolf wasn't a bad thing. Yeah.
Hadn't been tarnished yet.
1931, you were still a pretty cool dude.
It's all right.
However, yeah, there's been like tons of people that were murdered out there. And if you go out to like Goldfield, Ghost Town, like awesome experience.
Mm-hmm.
We took the 8-year-old out there. There's just a ton of like super rich history in Arizona and especially in that area. But they have like a museum that you can go through and it talks about the Peraltas and like there's really cool stuff. I think in that museum they even had like a coat that belonged to Doc Holliday, who I'm actually related to. Anyway.
Oh, I like that. That's good. A little sick. Yeah. Gun hands. Friend of the show.
Yeah. Real gunslinger around here. However, yeah. So there's a ton of history there. They have a huge mine that was out there. I want to say it's the Mammoth, but I might be completely off.
Don't know.
But they used to mine gold out there, and then they have, and I hate to ruin like the fun of it all, but they have a thing where you can drop down in a steam elevator and go through like a fake mine shaft, right? Cool experience in itself. And then you walk out the other side. But the even cooler thing is weather permitting, they actually do nighttime ghost hunting tours through there.
Yikes, no thanks.
Dude, it is so much fun.
I don't want to do that.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm scared.
It's a lot of fun.
It probably is a lot of fun.
And you see things.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah. But they'll run you through the whole town, and all these people have different stories about like different spirits and such that like show up out there. And, you know, even in that place, I believe somebody was murdered in the Goldfield area. Like there's a ton of that history out there, out here in Arizona, period. I mean, Arizona is the farthest west that a Civil War battle happened. You familiar with that?
No.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Give me a little bit of that.
I want to say it was Mount Lemon or Mount Graham. However,
I'm going to talk about Mount Graham in a minute, but go ahead.
Okay, and we'll get to that. Yes. It might have even been Casa Grande. However, there was a small regiment of Southerners that clashed with a small regiment of Northerners, and I believe the Southerners got absolutely slaughtered. However, Arizona is the home of the farthest west battle of the Civil War.
That's wild.
Yeah. Proceed with your Mount Graham, sir.
Yeah, so the Superstition Mountains, obviously, that gets all the attention. Lesser known, but equally as important to the Apache and apparently to the Vatican is Mount Graham.
Juicy.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit juicy too, and I found that I was like, what is the Vatican doing at Mount Graham? So they have an observatory out there, and there's a very, very large.
I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a huge huge observatory, and there's some kind of a laser cannon magnifying glass telescope. It's probably all those things. It might not be any of those things, but it's called, the acronym for what it's called is Lucifer, which I think is wild. Like, why would the Vatican have this contraption there and then force an acronym that spells Lucifer? It's just comment section have a heyday with that, but it's pretty wild because that mountain for the Apache is one of the foremost holy mountains in the world to them. Like that mountain is particularly important, and it's because they consider there to be, or the lore is that they have found multiple stargates out there, the Cherokee tribe, like multiple stargates where otherworldly beings just appear and reappear on these flatter plateaus that are out there on the mountaintops. And so like that's their whole deal, is like that's where all of that stuff went down. I know that also that is at the Superstition Mountains as well, that there are supposed to be stargates there as well.
Stargates, alien abductions,
all the things,
portals to hell.
It's pretty wild. There are other mountains nearby that have the same altitudes, the same terrain. The Vatican could have built on those mountaintops without having to build on sacred Apache land.
Right.
But they actually went to court and fought in court to be able to build that observatory on that particular mountain. Why? Why that one?
Well, I mean, there is a long-standing history of the Vatican battling with Native American tribes in Arizona as well, because there's tons of different like supposed Vatican treasures of like even like the Spanish attempting to take gold back to Spain during their time in Mexico and Arizona territory and all that. And so I could see him doing it just as a big middle finger. And when I was like, oh, I've seen that, it just dawned on me while you were talking about it that that's what that was, because we were traveling through, I want to say Oracle Junction to go into Tucson. And I looked up at this mountain and was like, wow, that is massive. Because this thing is not small. You're probably 100 miles away or so. Don't know depth perception that well when it comes to hundreds of miles or not. However, you see it. You see it. And I was looking at it and was like, that looks like an observatory. So that's crazy.
Yeah, it's massive. And what's really wild too, and I think that some of the draw for the Vatican is that the Apache, their origin, their lore for the origin of man and the world is wildly similar chronologically to the Bible. Like I want to say Genesis chapter 6. I don't know. Somebody fact check me on that. But there's when it comes to creation, when it comes to the fall of man out of Eden, when it comes to the Nephilim, the flood, all of these things happen in their lore at the same time. And it's like they're eerily similar to each other. Yeah. So I don't know if that's why the Vatican is there, but that's certainly interesting. Their excuse is ultimately that over the last, I don't know, several hundred years, the Vatican has had an observatory somewhere. They always have some observatory. Why do they have an observatory? Okay, well,
I was about to ask.
yeah. So the Vatican ultimately has been responsible for calendars. Our Gregorian calendar is correct, right? And so you track that with the stars. And so their excuse for we always have some observatory is to make sure tracking the stars, the calendar is correct. So that way they can make sure that you feel bad on the right day every week, right? Every less than 100 years, wherever their observatory is, it ultimately gets taken away from them, right? And I'm not going to go too deep into that because that's its own rabbit hole.
Kind of want you to, though.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it to speak with authority. The comment section is going to have a ton of fun with it. But ultimately, so wherever they have one, that government will consume it, or somehow it'll just get taken over from them. And so, and that was in Europe. Their observatories, every time they create a new one, gets consumed by the government or whomever. And so they're like, screw it. We'll go build one in Arizona out in the middle of the desert where no one will ever care that we have an observatory out there. So that's their excuse as to why it's there.
On the holiest mountain in the Apache tribe.
Yes. That where there are other mountains, same altitudes, same terrain, would have changed nothing, but it had to be on that one. So is the excuse valid? Of course it isn't. How can I validate that? I can't.
As well, I know that there's been previous beef between the Catholics and the Freemasons.
Mm-hmm.
But according to the Freemasons, at least Albert Pike, a Lucifer just means a light bearer. Like, what does that lens or whatever observatory do?
I don't know. But I do know that it was, they collabed with, let's say it was U of A, and to make that. And so because it's not grant funded, it's not state funded, it's funded by the Vatican, they have no issues with money being continued to pour into it. So a ton of research is done there. So apparently, from my understanding, it's one of the most productive or information producing observatories on the planet, because they don't have to go out and look for money. The money just keeps coming in because the Vatican has more money than anybody.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Are you tired of big corporations farming you for views? So are we. We're just two poor guys that are trying to put together a podcast. So if you can give us some help by doing a like, share, comment, subscribe, or save, it helps us trend in the algorithms. Thanks.